Here we are, January 3rd, for another Today's Decay. Isn't that right, Louie? So sleepy over here. We almost didn't make it today, but I'm glad we did. On this day in 1894, Zazu Pitts was born. Hollywood character actor who was a comedian. Very difficult to understand how to pronounce her name. Zazu is a mixture of her two relatives, aunts, I think. Eliza, and Susan. Somehow that became Zazu Pitts. Anyway, lots of silent and pre-code comedies, and she really excels in them. Doesn't she, Louie? 1905, Anna May Wong was born. Fantastic Chinese actress. Striking and broke all sorts of boundaries that shouldn't have been in place to begin with, but were. Yeah. Gene Summers, born this day, 1939. Rockabilly rock and roll singer performer. School of Rock and Roll. I saw him play in the mid-90s. Complimented my hairdo. Really nice guy. Puts on a great show. And like a smile that like warms the room. You can just tell. These are good people. 1931. Oh, not going in order. Oh well. 1931, Conrad Brooks was born, of Plan 9 from Outer Space fame. 1953, Gary Louie was born. Your makeshift grandpa, I suppose. My dad. Well, you know, he's done all sorts of exciting stuff, but one thing we can all connect with is my grandfather, his father, worked in a machine shop in the 60s in Long Island that were involved with producing the struts for the lunar module. And so my dad was working there on like summer break from high school, and my grandfather said, why don't you cut a couple of those pieces of metal, knowing they're going to wind up on the lunar module, which then gets shot up into space and is still up there on the moon today. So we all, from today and for time immemorial, can look up at the moon and see some of my dad's handiwork up there. That's kind of nice. Wouldn't you say? Maybe. Yeah. Right. And on this day, 1959, Dr. Morgis's House of Shock premiered. I love Dr. Morgus, horror host from New Orleans, way down south down in New Orleans. When they say magnificent, you bet they know what it means. Morgus the Magnificent. Fantastic horror host. Starred in his own movie. Wound up moving to, was it Detroit or Chicago, performing there for a while, and then went back to New Orleans, and you know, was like a real darling of New Orleans for decades and decades. Cut a rock and roll record, had rock and roll records made about him, really lived the life you wanted to live. Sid Knowles, his name. Just recently passed away in the last year or so. And that's it. Most of Dr. Morgis's House of Shock is not available, but it's lost to time because it wasn't recorded anywhere. These are just like made for locally broadcasted New Orleans audiences at the time. Anything you find online are decades later, but there's a couple of things that still exist from somewhat earlier Morgus content. And he was even a guest on Coast to Coast. So yeah, I'm a big Morgus fan. I have a bunch of ephemera connected to him, but I'm a little stuck at the moment under a Louie. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's what happened today, January 3rd. And tomorrow, well, you have to wait and see. Just like the rest of us. Goodbye.